Hey everyone, before we begin, I just needed to shout out the artist for today's art, Kamu, or at Kamui on Twitter. Awesome individual. I was lucky enough to be able to speak with them and get permission to use their phenomenal art of Yunaka on today's thumbnail, so I just wanted to give a shout out to Kamui for allowing me to do so. You can find their Twitter account in the description below and on screen now. They do a bunch of awesome Fire Emblem art, a bunch of other awesome art of OCs and other people's characters and all that type of stuff. Check them out, and if there's any other links to their stuff, I will have it in the description as well. Thank you so much, Kamu. I love your art. It looks incredible, and it is an honor to have it on today's thumbnail. So guys, check them out. Show them some love. Thank you so much. Enjoy the video. Unless you've been living under a rock, you're probably aware of everyone's new favorite character from Fire Emblem Engage, Yunaka, the outwardly peppy, totally not assassin. Whether you like her design, her personality, or you just want to say hi to her papaya, it's easy to understand the love. But when it comes to the field of battle, how should you use this quirky thief? Allow me to suggest my personal build, which has cemented Yunaka as a permanent fixture on my team. Let's talk about it. Hello everyone, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. If you like what I do, and you want to help support your local small YouTube creator, please subscribe. I'm hoping to hit 15k subs by the end of the year, and I can use all the help I can get. Thank you. The goal of this build is to make Yunaka into the dodginest, debuffinest unit the world has ever seen. To do this, we need a few things. First and foremost, you want to keep Yunaka in her base thief class. While it could be fun to change her to something like Wolf Knight, you absolutely want the extra avoid that Yunaka can get from terrain via her covert skill. So either don't worry about changing her, or change her back to Thief if you want to follow this guide. There is one exception to wanting higher avoid on Yunaka, we'll get to that later. For the most part, Thief is the way to go. First off, let's talk about her primary weapon. I choose to use a Steel Dagger +5. I'm not actually gotten to +5 yet, I'm currently at +4. But to me, the Steel Dagger provides the best balance of damage, accuracy, weight, and crit, while also having 1-2 range, which is absolutely vital to make this build work the way that we want it to work. Like all daggers, it inflicts poison on hit, increasing the damage that enemies take from Yunaka and the rest of your team, and you can work up to this. For example, I used a Forged Iron Dagger for quite a while. You can see I have a +3 one here, and that will be good for a good long time while you work on getting and upgrading your Steel Dagger. Speaking of the blacksmith, let's talk about engravings. You're going to want the engraving of Fates. This is Corrin's engraving, so convenient because once you get Corrin as an emblem ring, you'll have access to this engraving. Corrin's emblem ring is what you're going to want on Yunaka. It just works out nicely. Because this engraving grants extra avoid, dodge, and crit for a low reduction of only 2 might. This is pretty much all of the stats that you're actually going to want on Yunaka. The extra avoid, very good for dodge tanking. The actual dodge itself, going to be very nice to prevent random crits. And then having extra crit itself is going to be huge so that Yunaka starts putting out big bursts of unexpected damage more regularly. Prior to getting Corrin, Lynn's engraving also works well here, though it does inflict a greater damage penalty while granting less crits, and also just kind of not really being necessary in a lot of other ways. Like, it grants you hit, which is not really important for Yunaka. She's quite accurate. Reduces the weight of your weapon. Knives are already quite light, and it doesn't grant any avoid or dodge. So use it while you have it. Upgrade to Corrin's as soon as you have the chance. Speaking of Corrin, the Corrin emblem ring is pretty much the most synergistic ring possible for Yunaka. Let's go through what it does. First of all, Draconic Hex inflicts -4 to all stats on the enemy when Yunaka engages combat with them. This is, of course, on top of the poison that you'll be applying by hitting an enemy with a knife. It basically just cripples them. Having increased damage taken from all sources because of poison, while also having less HP, strength, speed, dex, luck, defense, resistance, all that type of stuff, means that an enemy is pretty much going to crumble to anything that decides to hit them as soon as you've had them targeted by Yunaka once. Granted, you do need to be the one to initiate combat here. You're not going to hex everything that Yunaka counters on the enemy phase, but still, very strong. Next up, we have Pair Up, which prevents Yunaka from being damaged by chain attacks from backup units. Again, very important here. Chain attacks are one of the only things that would actually be able to hit Yunaka, as they have a flat 80% chance to hit at all times. You don't need to worry about that with Pair Up. It's just impossible to hit her with chain attacks. It's ridiculous. Then we have Dreadful Aura, preventing foes and enemies within one space of the target to be unable to move for a turn when Yunaka initiates the attack. And also, because Yunaka is a covert unit, inflicts a void -20 on the target. Again, as if you needed to cripple them any further. You already poisoned them, weakened them, now they can't move, they can't dodge anything. It's just ridiculous. And you're able to lock down a whole enemy group with this. Very strong. Next up, you can inherit the HP plus skills from Corrin, granting Yunaka even more health to make sure she's hard to kill even when she does get hit. This will be useful against enemy mages, since they will have more accuracy against her. And perhaps the most important piece of the puzzle, Dragon Vein, an activatable ability that creates a 3x3 square of fog on Yunaka, which grants units within it 30 avoid, doubled to 60 for Yunaka, again, thanks to her covert subclass. This is why we want to be in Thief, as well as making it difficult terrain. This can be activated on command every turn, and as it's a terrain type, it will grant Yunaka an extra 15 to her crit, thanks to her trained to kill personal skill. So now, she's going to be dodging pretty much everything. She's got extra crit off of her personal skill due to the terrain, plus the knife with its engraving, and enemies aren't going to be able to easily move around her unless they're flying, because their movement is reduced through the fog. You can probably start to see how this is going to start shaping up. With the general build out of the way, let's move on to the actual gameplay. In Phase 1, Ad Clear. There's 2 stages to using Yunaka with this build in combat. First, as I said, is the Ad Clear stage, where you can set Yunaka up to soften up, if not outright kill, a whole section of the map by herself. To do this, position Yunaka on the outermost edge of your formation, as close to the enemy as possible. If her first move will put Yunaka in range of the enemy pack, great. If not, consider using the Reposition skill or a dance effect, courtesy of Seedall or the Byleth Engage ring, to grant Yunaka some extra move. When pushing up, look for convenient choke points to position Yunaka in. You'll be able to use her Dragon Vein with Corrin to create fog and make it difficult to push through such a choke, forcing the enemy to engage Yunaka in combat instead. During the enemy phase, Yunaka will be targeted by any enemies that can reach her, and with that 1-2 range steel knife, she'll be able to counter against most enemies. Some will fall to her numerous crits, while others will wind up poisoned and vulnerable for their troubles. The only thing you may struggle with here are Thunder Mages and Longbow users, due to the fact that they can attack from 3 range, and high defense generals who Yunaka may just not have the power to punch through the defenses of, but that's fine. Speaking of mages, don't be too worried about them either, though. Between her natural avoid, the extra HP that you've got because of Corrin, and boosted res from Corrin's Emblem Ring as well, Yunaka can take some hits from them. No sweat. Something that does bear stating, though, is that this strategy could see some slight problems in Maddening mode. You see, in Maddening, the AI is smart enough to know not to just throw themselves at a unit that they have 0 chance to hit. This means Yunaka could actually suffer from success if she's too good at avoiding attacks. Thankfully, you can reduce your avoid in a few ways. First off, you can equip a heavier weapon, and while knives are inherently light, you can increase their weight with various engravings, such as Ike's or Roy's. Some engravings also inherently reduce avoid, such as Erica's, which gives -20. So, if you're going all in on this build, it may be worth considering a backup knife engraved with one of these effects to ensure the enemy actually tries to attack Yunaka at all on their turn. Again, if you're on Maddening. If you're on normal or hard, you don't need to worry about this. Back on the player phase, this is your chance to single out a high priority target for elimination. Remember, anything you hit with Yunaka will suffer not only from poison, but also from her Dreadful Aura and Draconic Hex. This will make them easy pickings for the rest of your team as they move up behind Yunaka to clean up. Rinse and repeat as you push up the map until you encounter any bosses, which will allow us to step into the next phase. Also, as a reminder, you can use Strength Tonics if needed to boost Yunaka's damage further for one battle, and Alier's Divinely Inspiring skill, which will allow you to force damage through for the sake of poisoning. Again, that skill grants a +3 to damage dealt, and that is applied after enemy defenses are calculated in. So you will always be able to deal at least 3 damage if Allier is standing adjacent to Yunaka. Note as well that if you want to, you can just have Yunaka hold down an entire side of the map on her own, similar to something like Ike or Sigurd Louis, and just send the rest of your team off to do something else. 9 times out of 10, she'll be able to do that without a problem. Now, on to the bosses. When you're ready to deal with bosses, you want to get as many attacks off on them as possible with Yunaka before opening up with the rest of your squad. If possible, you want to bait the boss into attacking you as they approach, if they aren't just a stationary boss, for the extra poisonous stacks that you can start with on the enemy phase. When it comes around to your turn, attacking with Yunaka first will apply even more poison, and also, again, inflict the draconic and dreadful debuffs that we discussed earlier. Combined with poison, bosses will be absolutely exposed to any and all damage from the rest of your team. Ideally, you could even take a whole health bar off and shatter a revival crystal while weakening the boss with Yunaka between her crits and the extra turns that you can grant her via Seedall and the Byleth Ring. If the boss is a dodgy one, I would also consider utilizing Corrin's Engage attack to deal some damage while guaranteeing that you'll be able to create water under the boss to reduce their void while applying the draconic and dreadful debuffs. Remember, Engage attacks have 100% accuracy, so don't be afraid to burn it here if you want to ensure that you can hit the boss. From here, you can employ your favorite boss slaying strat and enjoy the sweet, sweet effects of Yunaka's efforts as you tear them apart. In a situation where you have multiple bosses on the map, the same ideas apply. Clear out one group and their boss, push up with Yunaka, bait out the next boss if possible, and start weakening them all over again. Remember as well that you don't necessarily need to put down Yunaka's fog if you aren't trying to hold a choke point, as she will get the same avoid bonuses from other terrain like thickets and forts, and it is noteworthy that the enemy can make use of the avoid from the fog as well, so sometimes you may want to just have her placed on a thicket and let the enemy go to town. Have support ready if needed, such as a healer with a physics staff to heal from range, and you should be good to go. For truly stuck in problems, I do have one final trick for you, however. Corrin's quality time ability that we mentioned at the start of the video heals nearby allies when you perform an action next to them or when you wait. Combine this with a Chi Adept, Jean is a great choice here, to protect Yunaka with Chain Guard during the enemy phase. If Yunaka would be hit, your Chi Adept will take the hit instead, losing a pittance of health. Then, on the player phase, you can take whatever action you're going to take with Yunaka. You can attack, use a Dragon Vein, even just wait, and so long as she's ending her turn next to your Chi Adept, she'll heal them to full, and they'll be ready to Chain Guard again. Repeat as needed until everything and anything has been slain, as if Yunaka needed more survivability. And that, my friends, is the long and short of my personal Yunaka build. Again, this will carry you hard. This is up there in survivability with, again, Louis with various different emblem rings, such as Lyn, Sigurd, Ike, all that type of good stuff. So if you are really having issues with a particular map, bring those two characters, put them on different sides, and let them just tank. It'll make your life infinitely easier. And remember, Yunaka is available very early. You get her in like chapter 6. So while it will be a little while before you then get the Corrin ring, you can at least start building her up and apply some of the fundamentals of this strategy before you get the big power boost that the emblem ring provides. If you have any other suggestions on how to use this build, any points about what makes it even better, or if you have a different Yunaka build that you think is superior or at least worth checking out, please let me know in the comments. Other people I'm sure would love to see it as well. It'll be good for everybody. Again, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other. Bye now.